Here's something that might improve your flexibility on trombone. Take your fingers and point them into your ear holes. Make sure that they're parallel to the ground. What you're doing here is pointing at the joint where your skull is poised atop your spine. It's called the AO, or atlanto-occipital joint. Now that you're pointing, I want you to find the joint with little bobblehead motions. You can see me doing that. Use your kinesthesia to find the joint. Sometimes this might take you a little bit of time. Okay, now do me a favor and move your fingers forward, and you'll realize that the joint is really fairly high, kind of pointing at your nose. The joint is higher than your embouchure, so that when your head moves, it swivels on a different plane than your trombone is based at. So you have two different planes to think about, that AO joint and the plane where your embouchure is. The reason this might affect your flexibility is that if you're unaware of the AO joint and the difference between the two planes, then you might be doing this. And when you have to change registers, you might be moving both the instrument and your noggin sort of on the same plane. And that really doesn't affect any change. My suggestion is to move your noggin or your skull on the plane where the AO joint is, and realize that your instrument would move on a different level like this. So my head and my horn. So you need to understand this relationship so that you can allow your lips to move however they need to move to go from one register to another, which is essentially what you're doing with lip slurs. So I need to move my head down a little bit because my jaw drops, and the instrument reacts to that by moving up a little bit. Just to be clear, I am not physically trying to move my trombone. I'm holding it very gently so that when my embouchure invariably changes shape from one register to another, then the instrument can be freely responsive to that change. Of course, the instrument is moving, once again, on a lower plane than my skull is. When you have to go fast, by the way, don't be afraid to move your jaw. It pretty much is necessary. There's no way that you can keep your face like a mask without any sort of movement and get around the horn. I just don't think it's possible to do that. In fact, the wider the interval, the more exaggerated you'll see the movement becomes. All right, now what I talked about earlier with the two different planes, sometimes these motions are really subtle. So I was just doing it in a really fast fashion. However, you probably couldn't perceive it, but I could, because what the sensation is that you're holding the instrument very gently with your arms. You're not holding it rigidly. If you were, then it would crimp down on your lips and you wouldn't be able to negotiate the register changes. And that's the message here, is allow your embouchure to be in charge and allow the instrument to be freely responsive to the changes that your embouchure is asking for when you go from one register to another. And knowing where the joint is in relation to the embouchure is extremely helpful for that.